Ruphas Mafahl, the black-winged overlord and leader of the 12 Stars of Heaven, has been defeated. Years later, a man wakes up in her body, 200 years after her downfall at the hands of the 7 heroes. But the game world he once knew as Xgate is no longer ruled by humans, and it's no longer just a game. It has become a living world where every character thinks, feels, and breathes just like him. Our story begins with a young Ruphas swearing to grow stronger and eliminate injustice. As she matures, that determination transforms her into a conqueror. Eventually, a group of heroes gathers to take her down. The battlefield is fierce, with corpses scattered everywhere. They believe they have her cornered, but she strikes first, taking down one of them in an instant. An archer tries to snipe her, but she easily blocks the shot. At that moment, a bear-like hero charges, only for Ruphas to block and send him flying, knocking out the archer too. Another hero, a tanker, attacks head-on, but Ruphas pins him down. It turns out to be a trap. Another hero attacks with magic from behind. Ruphas counters, but it's revealed as an illusion by the hero mage. Despite their efforts, the hero is pierced through his chest. Refusing to die quietly, he unleashes his climax skill. Ruphas tries to evade, but he grabs her hand and strikes with the skill. The mage then casts a subspace seal. The heroes gather to witness Ruphas's final moments. She commends their victory, expressing belief that they can now defeat the Demon King. ORM, before being sealed, resulting in her defeat. But the truth is, Ruphas was originally a game character created by a shut-in loser. One day, he receives a strange notification from the game's goddess of creation, Allovinus. Thinking it's an official message because his character became a boss rivaling the Demon King, he accepts it. His screen goes black, and when he opens his eyes, he finds himself surrounded by strangers. Assuming it's a prank, he looks down, noticing breasts and confirming his male anatomy is gone. Checking his reflection, he sees Ruphas's exact likeness, complete with black wings. Convinced he's dreaming like the loser he is, he decides to ask the people in front of him for clarity. But when he opens his mouth, a powerful pressure slams them to the ground. Despite only wanting to ask a question, Ruphas's overlord-like speech overwhelms them. She mocks their pinned-down state as their standard posture. He tries to calm the pressure, but speaking again only intensifies it. After much begging and effort, he stops the skill point. One of the people, an elf, seems to recognize her. Ruphas demands he explain the state of affairs, but he passes out from fear. When he wakes, he reveals it's been 200 years since her sealing, and the Demon King is still alive. They used Xgate to summon a hero, accidentally breaking her seal. Overjoyed at being reincarnated in his beloved game, Ruphas tries to ease their fears, but they're too terrified. She reassures them she's not here to cause trouble, declaring she's no longer an overlord but a young girl eager to explore the world after 200 years. She tells them they can summon another hero if they wish, then flies off, thrilled to see what Xgate has become. From high above, the view is breathtaking. But one thing stands out, a colossal tower piercing through the clouds. She instantly knows where her first destination lies. Xgate is an online fantasy game set in Midgars, famous for its war system where players engage in PvP and winners conquer nations. Its novel system publishes character stories as official history. Ruphas was the strongest character, conquering all of Midgars for the first time in game history, making her a semi-official character. Bored as the sole ruler, he negotiated with other players for a war between Ruphas's forces and the heroes, resulting in the game's greatest battle. Ultimately, Ruphas was defeated and sealed in a subspace. Now, she heads toward the Sky Tower of Mafahl, her old base. Inside, the halls are empty, the throne room covered in dust. Sitting on her throne, memories of her former companions resurface. Then, out of nowhere, a flashback hits her. Two of the heroes who once fought her appear in her mind, before she can make sense of it. A young girl approaches, overjoyed, rushing to Ruphas's side, claiming she's waited 200 years. Ruphas doesn't recognize her. The girl, Dina, introduces herself as Ruphas's loyal advisor. Ruphas remembers appointing a young girl as a backdrop NPC advisor when building the tower. Confused that an NPC gained self-awareness and waited for her, Ruphas apologizes for forgetting someone so loyal. She confides in Dina about her broken seal. Dina reveals the kingdom of Levitian broke it, rumored to be preparing to summon a hero. Ruphas orders Dina to brief her on events since her sealing. Dina explains the 7 heroes who defeated her founded their own nations, but 4 have died of old age. Ruphas wonders if the remaining heroes are players like her. Dina drops a bombshell. The 12 heavenly stars are alive. These unique, powerful monster NPCs were bestowed the title for their strength. But Dina adds that 2 of the 12 joined the demon lord to avenge Ruphas. Ruphas is disappointed in her subordinates for joining the demon lord, even if it was to avenge her. Ruphas declares they'll journey to gather the 12 heavenly stars and investigate if the remaining heroes are players. Dina informs her that the first star they can find is Ares the Ram, who is currently at war with one of the 7 heroes, Migres and Svel. Ruphas spreads her wings, ready to depart, but Dina stops her. They need preparation and, more importantly, money. After waiting 200 years, they don't have a single penny. Ruphas suggests raising funds. Dina notes her appearance, especially her black wings. A curse among the heaven-winged is too recognizable. Ruphas scoffs, doubting anyone would remember her after 200 years. But Dina calls her naive, pointing out Elve's long age and her face is still fresh memories. Dina suggests adventuring, as it ignores identity or background. Ruphas agrees, liking the idea. They head to the bustling trade city of Idalir, with Ruphas hiding her wings under a cloak. The disguise ironically draws even more attention. Inside the Adventurers Guild, nostalgia hits her. It feels like the old days. Dina recalls Ruphas's past as an adventurer, and Ruphas laughs it off, muttering about the good old days. They head to the quest board. Dina picks a quest to find lost cats for 200 EL, but Ruphas insists fighting is their forte, not searching. Dina then selects an orc extermination quest for 1500 EL. Ruphas recalls that in the game, killing orcs yields a 3% chance of dropping orc meat, which boosts max HP. They reach the village plagued by orcs. The village chief explains the situation, and Dina reassures him Ruphas will handle it. At the orc den, Dina mocks their ugly faces, joking even the goddess sees them as failures and urges Ruphas to wipe them out. Before attacking, Ruphas checks her stats, all maxed, consistent with the game. Using alchemy, she crafts swords from the earth and takes out the guarding orcs. She feels grossed out by their corpses, but remains mentally unshaken. The commotion draws more orcs, led by their massive chief. The orcs attack, but their movements are sluggish to Ruphas. Realizing she doesn't need swords, she pops their heads off with ease. The orc chief, terrified by his fallen minions, attacks the ground randomly. Despite his efforts, Ruphas stands unscathed. A fire ignites on the orc's blood, and Ruphas notes the vast gap in strength and perception of time. The chief tries again, but Ruphas appears in his face, pats his head, and the orc felt like an ominous force was crushing him, causing his head to explode. For Ruphas, it wasn't even a battle. It was nothing more than a slaughter. After slaughtering all the orcs, Dina calls upon Ruphas and informs her that they got lucky this time. They found undamaged tenderloin. According to Dina, if eaten, it enhances vitality, the same as boosting HP in the old game. She explains that they were fortunate to find undamaged ones, since orcs are constantly fighting among themselves. That makes the chance of obtaining intact tenderloin only about 3%. Hearing this, Ruphas improvises, saying that next time they should be more careful not to damage any. Dina smiles, promising that she'll cook it for her later, then teleports all the dead orcs to the tower for processing. Watching her work, Ruphas quietly mutters that Dina is far more useful than she initially expected. Once the battlefield is cleared, Dina suggests that they free the kidnapped women being held nearby. They move quickly, and the rescue goes smoothly. Dina breathes a sigh of relief when she confirms that none of the women were harmed in any way. Ruphas then casually explains that orcs are, in their own strange way, gentlemen. They take good care of the women they capture, hoping to win their affection rather than harm them. That revelation completely shocks Dina, who finds it hard to believe, since their faces don't exactly match their supposed personalities. But even so, the women remain terrified of them. And Ruphas concludes that humans and orcs simply cannot coexist, that To makes sure they won't return. She uses alchemy once again and recreates Hrungnir's right arm, smashing the entire orc lair into dust. The ground trembles, and nothing remains but rubble. After that, Dina proposes erasing the women's memories so they won't have to live with the trauma. Surprised by Dina's skill, Ruphas asks if such a thing is really necessary. Dina replies that it would be best. They shouldn't remember being kidnapped by pigs. Ruphas has no objections and asks her how much control she has over memory manipulation. Dina answers calmly that if she feels like it, she can even implant false memories or entire personalities. Hearing that, Ruphas nods approvingly, and the two prepare to head back to the village that on their way. Ruphas creates a golem to carry them, sculpting it effortlessly with alchemy. As they travel, she asks why no one had taken out the orcs before, since the quest seemed so simple. Dina answers that compared to 200 years ago, the general standard of combat has declined drastically. Ruphas raises an eyebrow and asks what she means by that. Dina gives an example: the kingdom that summoned Ruphas, which is considered one of the strongest nations today. Then she asks Ruphas to guess what the strongest person's level is nowadays. Ruphas answers casually, thinking it should still be around level 1000 like in her era. But Dina's answer shocks her. It's only 120. Ruphas mutters to herself, realizing that in her time, there were many players who reached level 1000 just like her. Dina explains that Ruphas's era was an anomaly, filled with endless battles and powerful monsters. But now, there are no monsters that can reach level 1000 before dying. And since people only have one life in this world, they've grown cautious. They don't want to risk it all just to level up. That's when Ruphas finally understands the truth. This isn't a game anymore. It's reality. Back at the village, the rescued women reunite joyfully with their families. Ruphas and Dina receive their reward from the grateful villagers. The village chief approaches Ruphas, asking if it's truly all right to leave the golem with them. Ruphas assures him that the golem will protect them if orcs ever appear again. As they prepare to leave, one of the women asks for Ruphas's name. Before she can answer, Dina quickly steps in and introduces her using an alias, Svalu. Ruphas, clearly annoyed, stamps on Dina's foot with her heel in silent protest. The women thank them sincerely, unaware of the small quarrel. And Ruphas and Dina continue their journey. Now that they've earned enough money, they decide to begin their main quest, to find the 12 heavenly stars. Their first destination is the nation of Svel. Ruphas sets her mission clearly, to stop Ares the Ram, who's been attacking Svel, and as a side objective, to verify whether other players might still exist in this world. The ones most likely to be players, she suspects, are the 7 heroes, and one of them happens to reside in Svel. As they pass through the forest, the surroundings suddenly beam with light. Dina explains that it's mana. The land around them is overflowing with it because they're getting close to Svel. Finally, they arrive at the gates of the city, founded by the wise king Migres himself. At the entrance, guards request their identification. Ruphas freezes for a moment, realizing she has no ID. Before she can panic, Dina calmly takes care of it by providing one, an ID for a free trader unaffiliated with any nation. Once inside, Dina begins explaining everything about Svel. It's known as the City of Magic, founded by one of the 7 heroes, the elf Migres, who is revered as the wise king. Anyone aspiring to become a mage or scholar gathers here to study. As they walk through the city, Dina suddenly remembers that members of the Heavenly Winged tribe dislike mana-rich environments. But Ruphas reassures her, saying that she actually finds mana pleasant. Curious, Dina then asks what their next move should be. Ruphas bluntly replies that they should meet Migres directly. Dina instantly panics, fearing Ruphas' plans to storm the castle. But Ruphas clarifies that Ares is already causing enough chaos. They don't need to add more. Relieved, Dina suggests a quieter approach. Instead, Ruphas decides they should visit the library to learn what happened in the 200 years she was sealed. Since they're unfamiliar with the area, they stop to ask for directions. A mercenary named Gantz offers to take them there. Dina introduces herself as a free trader and mischievously introduces Ruphas as a suspicious person named Svalu, earning another painful heel stamp. Gantz laughs off the odd introduction, thinking Ruphas must have her reasons for such an eccentric getup. As they travel, Gantz explains more about Svel. He says the city used to have a larger population, But many people moved away ever since one of the 12 heavenly stars began attacking the region. Still, he reassures them that they're safe because the lake surrounding Svel is actually a giant water golem that acts as the city's guardian deity. Curious, Ruphas checks its status and is amazed by its level and HP. It's incredibly strong. For the current era, finally, Gantz leads them to a monorail station that connects to the Eastern District, where the library is located. Before leaving, he bids them farewell. As he walks away, Ruphas glances at his status and sees that his level is 82. For this era, that's actually quite high, which earns her respect at the library. Ruphas and Dina begin searching for records about the last 200 years. But instead of general history, Ruphas finds books specifically about herself. Confused, she asks Dina why there are works describing her death as a mistake and others that criticize the seven heroes' foolishness. Dina explains that Ruphas was never truly despised as she believed. In fact, during her rule, she overthrew tyrants and protected the people of those nations. However, humanity turned against her under the leadership of the seven heroes, ending her reign as a result. Once Ruphas was gone, the demon folk, who had feared her power, began attacking humans. Without her, no one could keep them in check. The heroes tried to resist the demons, but ultimately failed, and human territory continued to shrink year after year. Ruphas is shocked to learn that humanity's habitat has diminished so drastically, and that the world has fallen into such disarray because of her absence. Having found the truth she needed, Ruphas leaves the library and commands Dina to take her to Ares' castle. But before they can go, the ground shakes violently. An earthquake nearly topples the city. In the aftermath, Gantz rushes through the streets helping injured civilians. Moments later, an announcement echoes through Svel, summoning all mercenaries to the border with their gear. Meanwhile, Ruphas asks Dina how often earthquakes occur here. Dina replies that they're quite rare. That's when Ruphas reveals something unsettling. Ares has an ability that can cause earthquakes, implying that he must be approaching the city. Dina confirms it, sensing a powerful mana fluctuation from afar. Even Migres, from his castle, feels the disturbance. Dina suggests that they take the monorail to reach the border quickly, but Ruphas has a better idea. She uses alchemy once again and creates a massive bird-like statue to serve as transportation. As they soar through the air, Ruphas grows uneasy. Something about Ares feels off. Ares, one of the 12 heavenly stars, is a rainbow sheep who usually hates conflict. Even if he were seeking revenge for Ruphas, he wouldn't act like this. Suddenly, an unfamiliar memory flashes through Ruphas's mind. She can't make sense of it. Looking ahead, she sees what's waiting, a massive horde of monsters marching towards Svel. And among them, roaring in pure rage, stands Ares, the ram, one of the 12 heavenly stars. We see a flashback of the heavenly star Ares, back when he was just a lamb, crying alone in a dark forest. That's when Ruphas found him. She was surprised to see such a legendary creature, a monster said to be born only once every 500 years. Seeing him crying, she figured he was on the run, trying to escape from monsters and humans alike. After all, a single thread of his wool was said to be more valuable than gold. Ruphas advised him that instead of spending the rest of his life weeping, he should try striking back at his foes. Hearing that, the little lamb gathered his courage and jumped to attack her. Ruphas, impressed by his spirit, put him down with ease and asked him to come with her, to grow stronger and join her in her quest to crush everything in her jaws and conquer the entire world. Amazed by her ambition, the lamb agreed to follow her. When she asked his name, he shook his head, having none. So, Ruphas looked up at the stars and gave him one, Ares. Muttering softly to herself, she never imagined that a rainbow sheep would become her very first companion. Back in the present, Gantz rushes to the border with his companion Johnny, ready to face Ares the ram in the final battle. Outside the castle walls, the army stands in formation, preparing for war. But both the captain and Gantz are stunned by the sheer size of the approaching monster horde. They doubt whether they can hold out until reinforcements arrive. To their surprise, Ares issues a declaration of war before attacking. Mimicking the code of honor once imposed by his master during her reign, with no time to spare, the captain orders the mages to unleash their spells and wipe out as many monsters as possible. But even after the barrage of magic, The horde keeps advancing. Archers fire their arrows next, yet it's still not enough. The monsters just won't stop. With no other choice, the army charges forward. Gantz leads the knights into the front lines, cutting down monsters one after another. He spots Johnny struggling with an ogre and rushes to his aid, but the enemies keep pouring in. In moments, the tide begins to turn against them. The soldiers start getting pushed back, and even Gantz is reaching his limit. Reinforcements are nowhere in sight. When all hope seems lost, Migres appears, commanding Livia to strike. Livia descends in a flash of light and wipes out the nearby monsters in one massive sweep. The soldiers erupt in cheers as their guardian deity, Livia, joins the fray. Migres steps onto the battlefield, commending the soldiers for holding out this long. Now that he's here, he declares, he and Livia will take over and protect the country. At his command, Livia charges again, finishing off the remaining monsters with overwhelming force. High above, Ruphas and Dina observe the battle from the sky. Ruphas is relieved to see that Gantz is safe. She notes that with Livia's presence, they might actually have a chance to defeat Ares, since Livia's water element naturally counters Ares' fire. Not only that, Migres himself is also there. Ruphas tries to check Migres' status, but since they're the same level, she doesn't expect to see it. To her surprise, his status appears, and his level is only 500. The reason? Mark of the Vanquished. Curious, she asks Dina what it means. Dina explains that the rumors were true. The 7 heroes were cursed when they were defeated by the Demon King, leaving them unable to access more than half of their original power. Before Ruphas can say more, Ares appears on the battlefield. The final confrontation between Svel and Ares is about to begin. Ares and Livia charge straight toward each other, head to head. Migres mutters that between water and fire, they have the advantage. Livia forms a giant water drill and attacks, but Ares evades and fires a blazing breath of fire straight at Migres. Livia quickly shields him, swallowing the flames in a surge of steam. Using Livia as a conduit, Migres unleashes a massive tidal wave, but Ares leaps over it, despite his enormous size, and slams into Migres with crushing force. Migres raises a magical barrier just in time, blocking the hit. But Ares activates Mezartheme, a memento from Ruphas, and the shield begins to crack. When victory seems close for Ares, Livia coils around him, absorbing his flames and evaporating the heat. The soldiers cheer, thinking the battle is over. But Ruphas, watching from above, shakes her head. In terms of raw power, she admits, Livia will win this battle. But her health is being drained. The longer this fight drags on, the more danger she'll be in. Ruphas realizes that Ares never planned to win. His goal from the start was to weaken Livia. Soon, he'll retreat, since he knows neither she nor Migres can pursue him without leaving the kingdom vulnerable. Ruphas sighs, acknowledging how cunning Ares has become. Dina smirks and says he learned from the best. Ruphas can't deny it. She used plenty of cunning tactics herself back in the day. As expected, Ares activates Mezartheme once again and escapes Livia's grasp. Seeing this, Ruphas decides it's too dangerous to let Livia weaken further. She grabs Dina and leaps from the bird statue, descending toward the battlefield. Meanwhile, Ares prepares to deliver his final strike. Ruphas feels bad about what she's about to do, but she never asked her old companion to avenge her. She kicks Ares, sending him flying across the mountains, telling him to cool his head off. After the blow, Ruphas approaches Migres, who immediately asks who she is. Ruphas replies that she'll explain later when there are fewer eyes around. Her tone and voice make Migres freeze. He recognizes her, but he can't bring himself to believe it. Ruphas tells him she'll take care of Ares and orders Dina to follow later by teleportation. Before she leaves, Migres warns her that someone else is pulling the strings behind the scenes. Ruphas accepts the warning, trusting it from an old friend, and heads off to face Ares once more. When she arrives, Ares asks for her identity. Ruphas is shocked. He can talk now. Instead of answering, she lets out her pressure, the overwhelming aura reminding him exactly who she is. Ares immediately recognizes her, but he hesitates, thinking she must be an imposter. Ruphas releases her pressure and calmly reassures him that she is Ruphas Mafahl herself. But if he doubts her, she invites him to test it. With his strength, Ares activates Mezartheme, ready for battle. Ruphas smiles, thrilled to finally have a real fight again after so long. Ares charges, ramming into her with all his might, pushing her far back. But Ruphas cancels his skill and stops him in his tracks. He tries again, but she doesn't even budge. Then, with casual strength, she lifts him up and tosses him skyward. Before he can hit the ground, she punches his chin, sending him flying higher. From the battlefield below, soldiers can see his body soaring across the sky. She follows up, slamming him down and pinning him to the ground. Even after that, Ares gets back up, determined to fight to the end. He unleashes his strongest fire attack as a final effort. Ruphas commends him for facing her with his full strength and decides to answer him in kind. Both of them charge head-on, their clash creating a massive explosion that shakes the entire battlefield. When the dust settles, Ares lies defeated. Ruphas praises him for how much he's grown, from the little crybaby she once knew into a true warrior. With a playful flick, she sends him flying again and asks if he still doubts her. Ares stands up, tears in his eyes, and leaps toward her. But this time, he transforms into his human form, crying and apologizing as he hugs her tightly. Ruphas chuckles, calling him the same crybaby even after 200 years. That moment, Dina arrives through teleportation. Ruphas checks Ares' status. It's the same as before, still bound by the rule that companion monsters can't surpass their master's level. Smiling, she tells Ares that he's the first of the heavenly stars she'll reclaim. She commands him to join her again, with no objections. Ares accepts joyfully, honored to be her first once more. Just like that, Ares rejoins the party. Dina cheers for their new companion, but Ares tilts his head and asks who she is. Dina snaps, trying to jog his memory by reminding him she'd been with Ruphas all along in Mafahl Tower. Ares remembers vaguely, but it's still a blur. Then, with his usual bluntness, he calls her a background character. Dina turns to Ruphas to complain, sulking in the corner while crying dramatically. Ruphas sighs and tells Ares to stop bullying her. She's been supporting them since her return. Ares shrugs, saying he only spoke the truth, which makes Dina even angrier. Meanwhile, somewhere deep in a dark place, a shadowy figure smirks quietly. And fun fact, why Ares looks like a girl but is addressed as a boy? Because, well, Ares is a femboy. Ruphas asks Ares why he invaded Svel. Filled with anger, Ares replies that he cannot forgive the humans who betrayed her. After she strove to grant them a life free from devil folk, humanity squandered her efforts, trampled on her ideals, and hailed the betrayers as heroes, living carefree. Moreover, Ares owes her his life, as she once saved him when he was merely a lamb. Ruphas understands that his motive stems from devotion to her. She thanks him for his loyalty, but tells him that she seeks no vengeance. Yet she recalls Migres's warning, someone may be pulling strings behind the scenes. She asks Ares who manipulated his feelings and deceived him. Meanwhile, in the Guile volcano, one of the devil folk luminaries, Mars the Fire, gathers an elite army of level 80 and above. Believing Ares has weakened Levia, he orders them to march on Svel and kill every human they find, muttering that it was worth provoking Ares' thirst for vengeance. He preaches to the demon lord that a single opposing hero will fall, thanks to Ares. He celebrates. Something crashes down from the sky, cratering the ground and knocking out his elite monsters. When Mars checks the impact site, he sees Ares standing beside a cloaked Ruphas, whom he does not recognize. Suspecting she might be a hero, Mars notes her overwhelming strength and descends to investigate. Observing his blue skin and black eyes, Ruphas immediately realizes that the devil folk are the ones who manipulated Ares. Mars taunts Ares, urging him to fulfill his revenge and topple Svel for his master's sake. But Ares steps forward and admits that while he would love to take revenge for Ruphas, it would only benefit the devil folk, not her. Changed and resolute, he declares that he will stop Mars instead. Grinning, Mars says he anticipated this. Though Ares once served as their trump card against Levia, drawing his dagger, Mars declares that Ares, having served his purpose, will not live after betraying the devil folk. Ruphas intervenes, commanding Ares to leave it to her, since he is still injured from their earlier battle. Mars activates his secret art, Devil of Ice and Fire. Ice prison hellfire instantaneous. Phantasmal devil sword. Wielding freezing ice in his left hand and hellfire in his right, he moves at light speed, boasting that no one has ever survived his art. But as he continues to talk excessively while moving, Ruphas grows tired of his arrogance and sends him flying with a single punch. Mars hurtles through the air. He glimpses her black wings and blonde hair. Ruphas was shocked to realize this weakling is none other than the mastermind Migres mentioned. Turning to Ares, Ruphas asks his title, but before he can answer, Dina appears through teleportation. She explains that Mars is one of the 7 luminaries, the strongest after the Devil King and his son. Confused that such strongest beings are only level 300. Ruphas listens as Dina notes that devilfolk's standards have declined just like humanity's. Ares then asks why she spared the monsters. Ruphas replies that they were manipulated, and she has plans for them. Using her capture skill, she makes them her minions and orders them to return to their habitats and avoid unprovoked attacks. Receiving her command, the monsters disperse peacefully. Thus, the Ares Svel incident comes to an end. Returning to the kingdom, Ruphas and her companions inform Migres that they have recovered Ares, defeated Luminary Mars, and commanded the monsters to retreat. Surprised that she resolved in a single day what had taken them years, Migres invites her to a private discussion. Ruphas recalls Migres as a fellow player who once hunted alongside her, though she is now uncertain if he truly is one. Meanwhile, snake-like nobles storm Migres's quarters, feigning concern yet caring only for themselves. Dina and Ruphas quietly note their hypocrisy. Their worry extends not to Migres, but only to their own security. Later, Migres ashamedly explains that nobles who were meant to defend the people now only protect themselves, deliberately showing her proof of his failure. Inside his chamber, he asks Ruphas to reveal her face. She does, but his reaction is unexpected, pure fear, despite seeing his supposed old friend. Realizing that he is not a player, Ruphas listens as Migres asks why she returned after 200 years. Was it to mock their downfall? Calmly, Ruphas explains that a hero's summoning brought her back. Yet she is confused that he remains so composed despite facing his ancient enemy. She recalls a book in the library criticizing the 7 heroes, collected by Migres himself. For years, he has carried guilt over the devilfolk invasion that followed their victory over her. Blaming himself, Ruphas sighs and tells him not to shoulder that guilt. He should be proud of defeating a powerful foe. Migres then asks if she harbors resentment for their betrayal when her dream was so close to realization. Feeling none. After all, it was once a game. Ruphas instead channels what the real Ruphas would say. Perhaps she lacked as a leader, and that failing sparked the uprising. She advises him to abandon self-blame and to stand tall. Proud as he was 2 centuries ago, Migres reminisces about drinking with Ruphas and Alioth, when they once vowed to build a proud elven nation in a great city. Ruphas had boldly declared world conquest, and Alioth laughed, promising to eat pasta through his nose if she succeeded, joking that they would never face each other in battle. Seeing the same spark in her eyes now, Migres thanks her. Ruphas restores Livia's maximum HP, something Migres, weakened by time, can no longer do. Ares refuses to apologize for his earlier actions, even knowing his fault. Ruphas decides it is time to depart in search of the 12 heavenly stars. Migres asks her next destination. Dina suggests the black-winged king's grave. Ruphas is confused. It seems to refer to her own. Dina explains that her admirers built the world's largest structure 200 years ago, atop which Libra of the Scales stands guard over her entombed treasures and equipment. Migres adds that rumors describe Libra as a killing machine who eliminates anyone who approaches the top floor. Ruphas wonders why anyone would risk fighting Libra merely for treasure. Migres explains that most legendary weapons were lost during the war with the Demon Lord. Those treasures are humanity's last hope against the devil folk, but Libra prevents access. Shamelessly, he requests that she lend him any unused items once she recovers them. Ruphas agrees, confident in her own strength without them. Thanking her, Migres offers items to conceal her wings and a disguise to help her move freely among humans. At the kingdom's entrance, she finds Gantz waiting to bid farewell. He fails to recognize her at first. When she reveals she is Sval, Gantz is stunned by her beauty. She thanks him for his help, and they part ways. Gantz suspects she might be Ruphas but quickly dismisses the thought as impossible. Meanwhile, the heavily wounded Mars trembles at the thought of Ruphas's return. Suddenly, a mysterious woman appears before him, stating that his role is finished. With a snap of her fingers, Mars vanishes, erased completely, as if he never existed. The group sets their sights on their next objective, Libra of the Scales, who's said to be located at the grave of the Black-Winged King, a destination that's a whopping 500 kilometers away. That's a huge distance, and while Ruphas is totally fine with walking, Dina immediately protests, saying not everyone's a superhuman like her, and walking that far is exhausting. She comes up with a proposal to create a golem that can carry them around. Ruphas points out that they already have her teleportation magic, but then remembers they'd even use a carriage to get to Svel. Dina explains that teleportation magic is really meant for personal use, and to teleport another living creature, you either need their full consent or you have to knock them unconscious. The problem is, even a tiny bit of refusal in someone's heart can cause the spell to fail, which is pretty terrifying. So, it's just a huge hassle. Getting even more ambitious, Dina suggests that while they're at it, the golem should come with a bath and a place to sleep so they don't have to camp outside anymore. Ruphas is a bit skeptical about what kind of golem that would even be, but she agrees to give it a try. With a loud cry of alchemize, the golem is created, and inside, they find incredibly soft and fluffy beds. Ares dramatically declares that he's unfit to be a bride now, and Ruphas just bluntly reminds him that he's a man. With that settled, they decide the golem needs a name. Dina thinks it should sound chic, but not too pretentious, while another companion suggests something simple and easy to remember. Ruphas declares that its name will be Tanaka. What follows next is a ridiculous commercial-style presentation, promoting Tanaka as the golem that can take you to beaches, cities, and mountains. It even comes with a status card showing it's an artificial life form. Ruphas then commands, "Tanaka, drive us to the grave of the Black-Winged King," and the golem responds in a calm, robotic tone, "Yes, boss." The group finds traveling in Tanaka to be an absolute breeze. It's super comfortable, and before long, they decide to stop for the night, having Tanaka park in a good spot as soon as they step out. Dina sniffs the air and suddenly gets all excited. She's found a hot spring. Ruphas points out that they already made a bath inside Tanaka, but Dina insists that a natural hot spring is completely different and practically drags her along. She tells Ares he can go later since he's as they prepare to get in. Dina stops Ruphas and scolds her for planning to enter the water without tying up her long hair. She explains that it's bad manners because stray hair floating on the surface makes the water dirty for the next person. Ruphas admits she's got a point, and Dina offers to tie it up for her. Ruphas, trying to avoid seeing Dina's naked body despite being female herself, tells her to stay put. She'll come to her instead. Dina comments on how pretty Ruphas's hair is and notes that such long hair must give her stiff shoulders. After tying it up, she encourages Ruphas to relax and enjoy the hot spring since it's been ages since she could properly stretch her wings. The water feels amazing. But Dina notices her legs are a bit swollen from sitting in Tanaka all day, though Ruphas feels perfectly fine. Dina then spots some rare creatures nearby, adaptive frogs, and points them out. She explains that the pink one's female and the green ones are male. But what's really fascinating is that when there are too many males, some of them actually change their sex to female so they can mate with the extras. She marvels at how they used to be male, but their feelings change, and they fall in love with other males. Ruphas seems to have some kind of reaction to this revelation. And just then, Ruphas decides that's her cue to get out of the water and lets Ares know it's his turn next. Eventually, the group arrives at the grave of the Black-Winged King, which turns out to be so massive that an entire village has sprung up around it. Dina explains that hunters and adventurers came to conquer the grave, merchants followed, and the place simply grew into a tourist spot. Ares is absolutely livid, declaring that it's outrageous for fools to ransack Ruphas's grave, and he prepares to attack them. But Ruphas immediately stops her hot-headed ram, telling him there's no need to cause a commotion. She reminds him that since she's standing right there, it's obviously not her real grave, so she doesn't care if people are raiding some fake monument. Internally, she notes how crazy he gets when it comes to her and wonders if all of the 12 heavenly stars are this obsessive. Their attention is drawn to a nearby crowd, so they ask what's going on. A man explains that a special reconnaissance team of 50 powerful adventurers went into the grave 2 months ago and were on the verge of conquering the top floor, but they missed their daily check-in. Realizing that Libra must be on the highest floor, Luphas decides they need to retrieve her fast to prevent any more casualties that as they head in. The man tries to warn them that if the special team struggled, then 3 of them don't stand a chance. But Luphas simply tells him they appreciate his concern, though it's unfounded, because there will be no more deaths on their watch. Inside the grave, they're suddenly met by golems, which Dina immediately recognizes as mass-produced models Luphas created for the final battle against the 7 heroes. Luphas notes that they have no intent to attack her or Ares since they're designed to distinguish friend from foe and still recognize her as their master, even after 200 years. But then, for some reason, the golems suddenly turn and attack only Dina. Ares jokes that her presence must be so faint that even the golems forgot she exists. Just as Luphas prepares to step in, another group of adventurers calling themselves Hawkeye jumps in to protect Dina. Luphas watches their movements and notes that their coordination isn't bad, but their strength is way too low, and they'll be wiped out before they can defeat the golem. She orders Ares to assist them, and with a single move, Ares obliterates the golem, leaving the adventurers in total awe. One of them rushes up to Ares, calling him young lady and asking how he pulled that off. Luphas steps in and tells them to calm down, also clarifying that Ares is a man. Much to their shock, the party then introduces themselves: Jean the warrior, Richard the heavy warrior, Nick the light warrior, and Shu the archer. Luphas's group introduces themselves under a cover story as free traders and rangers. Both sides immediately notice how unbalanced the other's party is. Hawkeye being all frontliners and Luphas's group pretending to be all rangers. Jean calls them muscle heads for relying on high levels, which annoys Luphas so much she threatens to alchemize a giant boomerang and stick it in his head. Thinking Luphas's party lacks frontliners, Hawkeye offers to act as their bodyguards. To Dina's complete surprise, Luphas immediately agrees. Later, she privately tells Dina that they should use Hawkeye while they can, revealing a rather cunning streak. She plans to support them just enough to keep things believable that as they proceed deeper. The scene cuts to the top floor, where the last remnants of another adventurer team face Libra of the Scales herself. They're determined to bring back the weapons cache for the future of humanity. Libra detects their presence and warns them to leave within 10 seconds, or be eliminated. The adventurers desperately plead that they're not there to fight, but to retrieve the legacy of the Black-Winged King to save the world from the devil folk. Unfortunately, Libra's programming simply identifies them as intruders trying to steal her master's treasures, ignoring their pleas. Her countdown ends, and she declares that their actions comply with the conditions for elimination. Without hesitation, she activates her ultimate weapon, Brachium. Meanwhile, as for Hawkeye, Luff started to regret bringing them along since these guys were absolute fodder and not even smart enough to realize how weak they were. Every time they ran into a golem, they got their asses handed to them, and Luff always had to order the golems to stand down before the adventurers ended up dead. But the worst part was that they genuinely believed they were the ones who beat them. Luff worried she was giving them false confidence, but there was no point arguing. Eventually, they reached the final guardian golem, and this one was way stronger than the rest, coming in at level 600. Luphas instantly knew the adventurers would get folded the moment they got close, so she told them to stand back while she handled it. The adventurers tried warning her it was too dangerous to fight alone, but Daimima assured them that Luff had a plan, watching as she calmly walked toward the golem. The first thing she did was ask if it recognized her. The golem's reaction made it clear that it did, but even then, it attacked. Forced to defend herself, Luff cut it clean in half with a single strike. As she turned to leave, the golem called her name and said, "Welcome home." Luff thanked it for guarding the place for the past 200 years and told it to rest. And the golem powered down for good. After that, she started heading up the stairs to confront Libra. But before she could go too far, the adventurers stopped her, insisting it was too risky to face Libra alone. They wanted to go with her, but Luff was done babysitting. She told them bluntly that they'd die almost instantly if Libra chose to attack, and none of them could argue with that. Before leaving, they asked who she really was. Luff paused for a moment, but decided not to answer, and continued up the stairs. Dina and Ares said they'd wait below since neither of them could handle Libra's brachium, meaning she'd be on her own. As she climbed, Luff wondered why she felt real sadness after taking down that golem. She couldn't shake the feeling. Maybe something was wrong with her mind, but there was no time to think about it now. Reaching the top floor, Luff found Libra waiting to intercept her. Libra ordered her to leave within 10 seconds or face elimination. Instead, Luff took off her glasses and spread her wings, revealing her true form. Seeing this, Libra stopped the countdown, struggling to process what she was seeing. She confirmed that the person in front of her looked exactly like Ruphas and was a 99% genetic match, but it didn't make sense. Ruphas shouldn't have survived the battle against the heroes. The contradiction caused Libra to short-circuit, and Luff tried to calm her down, telling her not to think too hard for her own sake. But Libra's system was already unstable, and when Luff stepped forward to help repair her, Libra's defense protocols activated. She activated her brachium and created a vast airspace battlefield. Luff was caught off guard at first, but quickly adjusted as Libra opened fire. Dodging bullets and missiles, Luff weaved through the air, looking for an opening. Eventually, she found one and struck, interrupting Libra's attack sequence before closing in. Libra retaliated with more gunfire, but Luff used her wings to blow the bullets back. Libra switched tactics, launching a series of complex attacks, but none of them came close to breaking through. Frustrated, she shifted to her ultimate domain, a sure-hit attack that ignored all defenses and dealt 99,000 damage. Caught in the range, Luff didn't back off. Instead, she smiled, excited to finally feel some real damage. When the violent energy hit, the pain was immense, but she had more than enough HP to tank it. Pushing through the blast, she closed the distance and dodged Libra's last-ditch laser strike. Before Libra could swing her blade, Luff grabbed her arm, pinning her in place while casting all repair. The spell restored all of Libra's damaged parts, fixing centuries of wear. Luff apologized for taking so long to return. With her logic units fully restored, Libra finally recognized her master. Her mission complete, she powered down for a long rest. Luff sighed in relief, glad things hadn't gotten out of hand. But now she had a new problem: how to explain all this to the adventurers without exposing herself. She walked back down and peeked around the corner, only to find Dina and Ares waiting. Confused, she asked where the adventurers went. Dina casually explained that she implanted false memories in their heads, making them believe they were the ones who defeated Libra. Luff had forgotten about Dina's mind manipulation ability. Dina explained that she made them think Libra was already badly injured, allowing them to claim victory. Luff asked if Dina planned it from the start, and Dina smiled, admitting that was the only reason she tolerated them in the first place. Dina suggested heading up to the treasure vault. When they entered, they were stunned by the mountains of gold and glittering artifacts. Luff couldn't sit still. Something about all that treasure made her restless. Dina pointed out that Luff always loved shiny things and used to hoard gold obsessively, which explained her behavior. She told Ares to help her pick out useful items while Luff was busy getting distracted. Luff tried to argue that she could control herself, but with both hands full of gold already, her words didn't exactly convince anyone. Eventually, Dina and Ares finished gathering what they needed, leaving behind the useless weapons and spare coins. Before they left, Dina asked Luff to gather all the golems in the area for teleportation. Luff agreed, but when she realized Dina meant all of them, she groaned and spent the next few hours roaming the grave to collect every last one. Dina teleported the golems away and suggested they move out. Luff asked if it was all right to leave the adventurers as they were, but Dina assured her everything was fine. Sure enough, a few minutes after they left, the adventurers woke up, fully convinced they were the ones who cleared the dungeon. Meanwhile, out in the forest, Luff and the others made it back to their RV. Before setting off again, Dina repaired Libra's clothes and placed her on a tree stump. Luff approached, giving the command to power on, and Libra slowly opened her eyes, greeting Ares and the unfamiliar woman beside him. She apologized to Ruphas for all the trouble she caused. Before Luff could respond, Dina scoffed that she couldn't believe Libra didn't recognize her. Luff chuckled and introduced Dina as her advisor. Libra was shocked, saying her memory contained no record of such a person. Dina got up close to her face, trying to jog her memory, but Libra insisted they'd never met. After scanning her data, she found some damaged files that might explain it, but couldn't access them yet. So, for now, she decided to take Luff's word for it and temporarily accepted Dina's authority. Luff couldn't read Libra's expressionless face, but she trusted her loyalty. She told her they were on a journey to reclaim all 12 heavenly stars and asked if she'd like to serve her again. Libra replied that nothing would make her happier and vowed to dedicate her life to Luff's cause. With Libra back in the team, Luff asked if she knew where the other stars were. Libra apologized, saying she'd been stationed in the grave for centuries and knew nothing of the outside world. So Luff turned to Dina, who happily explained that around 2,000 kilometers away, there was a small village at the base of a mountain where Parthnos now lived. Luff was surprised that Parthnos chose a village life, but Dina clarified that Parthnos had actually created the village herself, protecting it with a powerful barrier to shelter monsters and plants from humans. Luff was relieved to hear she wasn't causing trouble, until Dina added that the mountain used to be Luff's homeland, and Parthnos had driven out all the Heaven Wing who lived there, turning it into an uninhabitable zone. Luff could only sigh in disappointment. That wraps up today's recap. What do you think about this episode? Drop your thought in the comment. And if you liked this recap, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notifications so you never miss the next one.